All right, what's up, people? This is going to be the unedited, raw, first episode version. This is going to be an evolution of thought. This is going to be a place where there's room to rant, room to reason, room to find where your mind is on a lot of issues. Because I feel like this is a space that a lot of people need to hear about, and a space where a lot of people get lost. That's the reason we named it, or I named it, we the effectual, royal we. I named the podcast the Grayed Out Podcast. One, I have gone to the gray side of all things in my life, hair, beard, all those things. I'm almost 50, so that's where we are. By the way, for all of you out there, almost 50 is not a boomer. Not a boomer. Not. Just so we're clear. So there we go. Moving on from that. The thought behind this is there is a big political gray area, and no one seems to want to acknowledge it. No one seems to want to recognize that there are a whole section of society that's caught in the middle ground of these polarizing issues. And we're trying to make up our mind, and we want to have facts, and we want to have dialogue, and we want to have a space where we can talk about those things. And there's nothing out there. And even some of the things you find that are middle grounded, they're still super one-sided. So the question is is there a space anymore for adult speak? Can we dialogue? The irony of this whole thing is that when I relaunched my blog site, which we'll get to that at the end of all this, where you can find a lot of stuff that I write or have talked about. I opened up the page, and the last blog I wrote, the last time I sat down to really write something, was 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, the title of that blog was "Can We Talk?" And the entire message behind that writing was, where has dialogue gone in our society? Where has the ability to sit down at the table with someone you disagree with and have an effectual, meaningful conversation and dialogue without the ad hominem of just presuming that the other person sitting across the table from you who disagrees with you is just inherently evil and out to get somebody or kill somebody or destroy somebody or take from somebody? And that's the reality of where we're lost. We're lost in this space where there's no room, it seems, to sit in the middle. I consider myself, and some may disagree or agree, I consider myself a firmly independent, non-party affiliated. I make my decision every year as I've grown. Every year that we have an election, I'm making that decision that year. I read all of about the candidates. I read about any of the bills that are on the table. Any of the things that we need to look at, any of those things that need to pass an election, I want to know about both sides. And I want to know deeply, and I'm shocked, most of the time I'm shocked, that most people don't care. They kind of want to know who their party people say, what they are saying about the issues, and then they just vote for it because, I just trust that person. We weren't designed to be that way. We weren't designed to be a bunch of chattel just being pushed around by the opinions of people that are elected. They're just people. They read things, and half the time I'm concerned they're not reading the things that they're putting forth or passing. So the reality is that it comes down to us. We have an obligation, a duty as citizens, right, as good citizens, to help our country move forward. And so that happens by educating ourselves on the issues, educating ourselves with what's going on, educating ourselves about who's out there and what they stand for, and being okay with the fact that I might agree with 90% or 80% or 75% of what this person stands for, but I only agree with 30% of what this person stands for. But if we become single issue voters, we're lost. It's hopeless. I hope everyone understands this. If we become single issue voters, that we are doing ourselves and the country a disservice. Because the country can't move forward based off of a single issue. That's just the reality of it. And you'll have those out there, and we can get into these issues this continues. But just for this, I'm just trying to lay out a roadmap of where this is going. And my plan is to continue to do this a few times a week as my schedule allows. I mean, I got a job, I got stuff I've got to do. I'm trying to spend time with my family and do the things that we enjoy. This is just an area and a space for me to like I said, honestly, if you're along for the ride, if you're along for this journey, if you ever been in a church of preached at or whatever, I don't know how you become associated with me, but if you're on this journey with me, just know that this is a place where I may just come to vent, verbally, I don't know what you want to call it, rant. I'm like at this space of life where there's got to be more people. I can't be alone in this. I can't. There's no way. And so my goal is to speak on issues of the day, things that are coming up, stuff, society, life, who knows. But the goal is to try and find those people in the middle of these issues and help us see more. And if I'm speaking to, an empty hall, then I guess it's just for my sanity. We're all here for my sanity. I'm here for my sanity. I'm here for a space to talk and get things out. But the reality is, you may want to come along. Maybe your sanity and my sanity can get along, and it'll be great. But this is the journey, and so here's some of the things, like there's something thinking through and just looking at this. Some of the questions we've got to answer. Are there places for actual independence, not like political left-leaning or right-leaning, independents that want to say they're independent just because they don't want the stigma of a party, assigned to them. But in truth, and we've seen this a lot in the political, sphere, probably more in recent history, where you have people that say independence. But let's be honest, right? Bernie Sanders, independent. But the guy's really a progressive. He really is. He's got very, he goes hard to the left of the left as far as some of his socially progressive ideas, fiscally progressive ideas. So he's out there on that sphere, and okay, but yet independent. And I view independent as moderate, non-party affiliated, those kinds of things that are spaces where I'm not driven by the party line of either side. I want to find some place where I may agree with Democrats on some things, or agree with Republicans on some things, or agree with libertarians. Who knows? That's the idea. Is I'm trying to glean from the best of all things. And the problem that I see is there's not a lot of room for people like me, because each side sees their job as to win you to their side, and you've got to pick their team. You can't be in the middle in this. And I'm like, this isn't football, man. Like, I'm a diehard Niners fan, and I will tell you my team is the greatest team ever, even when they suck. I love my team. My team's the best. Your team's lame. Your team may have just won the Super Bowl. I mean, let's be honest. How many Patriots haters are there out there saying the Patriots suck even after they won a Super Bowl, or as many Super Bowls as they did? There are plenty. Okay, that's football. And you can be devoted to your football team. That's great, because it's football. And football comes in for a season, starts August, ends February. You say in January when I was a kid. Now, February, right? Ends February. So in that sphere of time, right? In those 6 months, you get football, and you're in, and you're all in, and you love your team, and and you hate all the other teams, and that's fine, whatever. Right? But if you're intellectually honest, you realize there are good teams, good players on other teams, but your team's always the best. Politics shouldn't be this way. Can we just agree? Like politics shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be my team is the best team and the other team sucks so hard, so bad, they're evil. And so then if you're caught in the middle and you haven't picked a team, right? If you refuse to pick a team because you're like, well, I kind of want to be in the Pro Bowl situation where I'm going to try and pick the best things from all the teams. But everyone's like, no, you have to pick a team. And being on our team means that you think the other team is just evil. They're rotten to the core. They're horrible people. Why would they think that? Why would they be like that? Who are they? They're just awful. And if they would all just crawl on a boat and that boat would sink, our country would be so much better without them. And I'm like, that's not really true. Because then all you have is homogenous thought and action and no one to offer any sort of like thoughtful discourse, disagreement, right? No one to be the contrarian. No one to say to you, I disagree. I don't think that will work. Then you can say maybe you get that inside of inside of each side of the parties, and maybe you're right to some degree. There is a level of discourse inside, but it seems like rarely do we see discourse across the aisle when it comes to major issues, right? You get bipartisan things that happen that are like absolutely non-effectual piles of garbage as far as how they affect our society. They're just things that they can say, look, we're being bipartisan. And you're like, that's really we want something, right? Meaningful, actual. And so, here we are. That's kind of just the beginning thought of kind of where we're going for this and some of the issues that are going on in this day and age. I'm probably going to speak about a couple of different things that are going on societally because I see lines divide, and wherever I see like dividing lines of my side, your side, and maybe the middle's a side, and maybe that's where I'm wrong. Who knows? I'm just willing to hash it out and discover what's going on. So I'm going to find this space for adult speak, for dialogue to happen, and find out if there are places for actual independence, if there's space for real life moderates, actual moderates, and go from there. That's the hope of what this looks like. And so in an effort to do that, I'm trying to write a little bit, do this a little bit with the camera and see how that works. And then also I've got some new equipment coming, microphone and all that kind of stuff for an actual just straight audio podcast. And because I've always been told I have a face for radio and a voice for it. So I'll just maybe, who knows, audio might be better because looking at this mug, I can't blame you if you don't want to get on the YouTubes and watch this. I get it. I mean, look, I'm sitting at my desk and the pictures and the guitar, and who knows, maybe you're like, Justin, what are you doing? Like, what on earth? Grayed out? Jay the Gray? What on earth? What? Why? Who knows why? For now, it's because I need this space to talk about things that are going on around me. And, my family's like, Dad, please stop. Could you stop talking to us about it? Find another venue. And of course, in the quarantine, I could sit in my room and talk to myself, but then people seem to think that that's not okay. So I'm going to try this, and we're going to see how this goes. And so kind of diving in, this is the idea. I'm hoping that this will gain some traction. I'm hoping as we're able to evolve, get a little better, backdrop, a little better sound quality. Right now I'm just literally filming on my iPhone, which I don't know that the video quality is great. My iPhone's doing a great job, but better sound quality. And maybe even I'll figure out along the way some video editing to put stuff like right up here. That'll be great. In a little screen, like I'm actually doing newsy things. That'd be phenomenal. But those are all learning curves that I'm willing to address at some point. And so in the sphere of talking about this, so here's what we're going to cover, right? Here's the things that we're going to look at. I'm going to discuss. I'm going to talk about, and you can listen to. And what I'd love, honestly, as we're getting this out on the social media spheres of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I'm on Twitter already at Jay the Gray on Twitter, so you can find me there. I've been an avid Twitter user, Twitterhead. I've been an avid tweeter. There you go. I've been an avid tweeter since 2009. I was an early adopter on Twitter and got in early on that. So I remember the 140 character days. Ooh, that was rough. Yeah, I'm so glad they doubled that, because now nuance is still dead, but we can tweet longer, non-nuanced things at people. So that's phenomenal. I'll also talk about Twitter and the Twitter the Twitter phenomena and how Twitter is both good and awful for our society at some points, just because I get caught up. There's shame sometimes there. So things we're talking about. We're going to be talking about political things, right? Political things are, they're out there. It's an election year. It's hard. We have a president that is strangely beloved by a lot of people, and strangely beyond demonized, like hated, they're on. So like both sides. So I'm just going to put this right out there, right out front. I did not vote for Donald Trump, and I've never been a fan. Like in the primaries, I stepped back and I was like, in 2016, I just looked and I was like, I'm really hoping as a country we can do better than Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as presidential candidates, because I gotta believe that out of all the people that are in the mix, if it comes down to these two, and it did, and it was just like, that's when I started like looking at third party options, and I voted third party, and I just didn't have any qualms about it. And that was probably the first time in my life, which is sad, because like I said, I'm almost 50, I'm 40 years old. I've voted in a lot of elections. But that was the first time I felt like just okay with not voting for a party, with not having to pick a side. I was just like, I'm not gonna. And I'm not gonna buy into this rhetoric that says, if I vote for a third party, then I'm enabling X to win or Y to win. It's not on me, especially not with, the electoral college the way it is. And I live in California. So is it really gonna, really? Probably not. People are like, no, you're gonna vote your conscience. Yeah, well, I did vote my conscience and it still didn't count, so it doesn't matter. California swings so hard to the Democratic side of the platform. It's, it's amusing. So that's where we are. That's where we are, and that's what's going on. So political things, societal things, big issues that are going on that I see being dividing issues in our country and the fabric of who we are as people, where it causes us to pick sides. And you're going to see a theme here. Where this comes from is this deep desire in my heart, in my soul, in my very being. You can have personal disagreements with people, and there's room for that. Like if you know a person and you're like, we don't get along, there's been an incident, whatever, like you can have personal disagreements. But to demonize an entire group of people, to anathemize another group, like making them the other, and because they're the other, whatever angle you're taking, and you're just otherizing people. Maybe I'll just coin that term. You're just otherizing people because of a way they think, or because of a thing you think they said, and we don't quickly realize that colors a certain level of bias in our minds, and then that bias becomes a filter, and everything and anything that group does, those people say, or anyone who takes that angle, that clearly, they are crazy people, stupid people, dumb people, uneducated people. And it's like, that cannot be the way, right? And so, we've got to discuss some of those things and look at both sides. I really think there's got to be a place to look at both sides. And maybe there are some, and I'm just more noise on the old interwebs, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm in this, just like I said, to speak my mind. And if people want to listen, phenomenal. If people don't want to listen, phenomenal. Neither of those sides of people are crazy or dumb or weird. I'll just take that personal rejection and go to my closet and weep, gently sobbing in the corner. And if you want that on your conscience, that's on you. All right, third things. I'm going to point out like funny stuff, just odd stuff, things like some of, like, I'm going to be very honest. Some of these rants will make you laugh, hopefully, because everyone needs levity, right? A little humor goes a long way. It really does. And I'm just going to continue to go forward that way because that's just my personality. And once again, no one's holding a gun to your head. You're here of your own volition. Own it. Own it. So, political issues, societal issues, humorous rants, I don't know what you want to call them. Occasionally, because of my pastoral background, I believe in talking about things that I dubbed low rent theology. Dividing theological issues, I think, are another thing. It's like the church would be so much better. Like Christians could be so much better if we just lay the sticks and stones down and we would just stop with the name calling and the crazy advocacy for, like, I'm going to be very honest. I really believe, and this is after years and years of ministry, right? The table, right? The Christian table is a big one, and there's room for agreement and disagreement. There are some definite die and divide issues out there, but I really think they're further and fewer between than a lot of people would like to think. So people like to really pick up an issue and be like, "Hey, this." And I believe a certain way. I really do. I have my own core sets of theology, and it's not like I didn't make it up. I'm rooted, and we'll get into that. That's another. There's time and space for that. That's another time. But we'll talk about some church spiritual type stuff every once in a while. But really, my aim is to kind of target life, political, societal. Just got to get stuff off my chest, and maybe every once in a while a story about family or humorous things that have happened in my life. Those would be the ones you can just pass over, or that's it. All right, so let's talk. Where are we at with social media? Where are we at online? All of these things are important because if I'm going to do this, there's got to be a space for people to land, to write things, ask things, question things. So this is going to be online. The website is loadsofrubbish.com. That's been my blog site for years, loadsofrubbish.com. I can explain that. There's a page on there that explains why Loads of Rubbish. I'll explain it another time. But anyways, loadsofrubbish.com. That's where you'll find my blog, the writings. There's a page for the audio that'll be coming out, and then I'll be linking the video as well for this podcast on that page. So there'll be writing, video, audio, all of those things there. I'm working to get the audio uploads onto iTunes on the podcast channels there. Hopefully at some point, if this is working well, we can get ourselves into a little podcast network of maybe like-minded, middle-of-the-road people. It'd be nice. And then on Facebook at Grayed Out Podcast, there's a page out there for that. And on Twitter at Jay the Gray. You can find me out there at J_the_Gray. And so Jay the Gray, the guy with the gray beard, gray hair, sometimes gray shirts. Grayed out. So that said, I think that just about covers it. I don't think I'm going to do Instagram, although I'm going to talk to my social media advisor, who's my lovely bride. So we'll see what she says. And who knows? We'll get this put out there, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. So Probably the very next video you will see is me, next couple of videos up on our calendar. I am going to be taking on, kind of talking from an angle of looking at a big picture perspective from what I've gathered on the Ahmaud Arbery case. That's just a tragedy that's hit our nation. And I see some really, it's just some crappy coverage out there on both sides, just wholesale going in one direction or another. And I really, yeah. It's just one of those things. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because it's a tragedy and people are using it to further their perspectives on both ends of this. And it really is. And people are like pointing fingers, and it's just, like I said, that one will come up. And then I'm going to be honest, I'm going to go down a little road of why I'm angry that I feel like people keep making me have to defend, like making me feel like I need to defend. That's probably a better way to put it. I'm getting upset that people are making me feel the need to defend the president because, like I said, I didn't vote for him. Policy-wise, I think he's done some good stuff. There are definitely good things that have been done by the president in his first term in office. He's accomplished some things. He's upheld some campaign promises. But he has a speech problem. He really does. He has a talking issue, and he has an ego issue. And some people are like, well, he's a narcissist and a sociopath. I'm like, are you a psychiatrist? Then shush. Because you can easily label anyone you ever come across that you don't like as one of those two things. You really could. You absolutely could. You could call me a narcissist because I'm sitting here in front of a camera talking to it by myself in a room to hear myself speak. And I'm being blatantly honest about I'm doing this to hear myself speak. So all that said, I'm going to probably do an entire video on the need, feeling the need to defend the president, and how that's really frustrating me because I don't want to one of the things I'm determined to try to stand for, okay, I'm going to try to take a stand for is intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty. Like, what is, and what isn't. Let's just be honest about it. Let's not take what isn't and try to make it something that is, or vice versa. So that's one of those things that I'll be talking about, and all that said. So find me on those places on social media, loadsofrubbish.com, on Twitter at J_the_gray, so Jay the Gray. Or you can just look up Justin Pritchard. That's fine. Grayed Out Podcast on Facebook, Jay the Gray channel on YouTube as well. So I'll be posting links to all of that on social media, and I'll be sharing stuff. So when you see it, share with your friends, click the like, click the subscribe, all the things that you want if you're interested. If you're not, but you know someone who is, tell them about it, and who knows? I just want to reach people with some form of reason. And maybe it's completely unreasonable reason. I am fully willing to admit that. Fully. So there's me in a nutshell. That's why I'm doing this. Grayed Out Podcast. Grayed Out on YouTube. And that's where we'll be. Again, I'm going to learn how to put stuff in this little square. You watch. It's going to be amazing on video. If you're listening to the audio podcast and you're like, what's he pointing at? I'll try to describe. How's that sound? I'll try to read and describe all the things, and I'll do it in the best radio voice that I can. With that said, here's me to you saying I'm hoping for more grace. I'm hoping for more positive outlook, for presuming the best intentions in one another. So let's move in that direction as a society. And for us in the middle, that's our job. That's our place, is to say, hey, what we're trying to do is think outside the box, presume the best intentions, look for the best solutions, not get caught up in the hyperbole, not get caught up in the yelling and screaming, not get caught up in the otherizing of people because they don't agree with us. Not assuming that everyone's an idiot or a moron because they're not on our party team or on our platform or on our whatever. But that they're people and they have thoughts and they're trying to wrestle through. And some people, yes, are sold out to hardcore devotion to whatever their thing is. But for the rest of us that are sitting in the middle, I'm hoping that this will be a place, like I said, where we can discuss. I can answer questions. I'm totally unafraid of answering questions. I definitely love doing research. That's one of my jams. So that said, thanks for watching if you watched. Thanks for listening if you listened. Let's just go be better. How about that? Good day.